State media in Syria say at least 14 people have been killed in a bomb attack on a bus carrying soldiers in the capital, Damascus. 2 devices are reported to have exploded as the vehicle crossed a bridge in the heart of the city during rush hour. A 3rd device was defused. Just hours after the attack, the Syrian army shelled a residential area in Idlib province held by rebel fighters. Witnesses and rescue workers say at least 11 civilians there were killed, including several school children, on one of the bloodiest days in Syria in months. Let's go live to our correspondent Anna Foster, who's in Beirut in neighbouring Lebanon. Anna, first of all, to what happened in Damascus, what do we know so far?
Well, as you say, those pictures have emerged from rush hour this morning in the very heart of Damascus. It's important to point out that this is right in the centre of the city at a time when people were heading to work, children were heading to school, and this was a military bus carrying soldiers. Now, it would appear at this stage, and details are still very limited, but it would appear that this was a planned attack. 2 explosive devices went off very close to that bus as it passed by. A 3rd one, as you mentioned, was located and defused by military engineers. Now, all of this detail so far has come from the Syrian State news agency. They call this a terrorist attack. It is vital, really, and important in the context of all of this, to note that attacks like this are very rare in Damascus itself. The last one of this size was probably nearly 5 years ago or so. As you know, Syria is a fragmented country. Different parts of it are controlled, some by the Syrian regime, some by rebels. And when you look at Damascus, it is important for President Assad and for the regime to try and maintain Damascus very much as a stronghold. And this is something which has been breached this morning, and which will certainly attract attention, as you say.
And Anna, so far we believe no claim of responsibility for that by any group. But what happened a couple of hours later in Idlib? Just tell us more about what the Syrian army did there.
That's right. So, as you say, while nobody has claimed responsibility for this, we can look at some of the other things that have gone on in the aftermath this morning. And around about an hour afterwards, we're told that in al-Rais city, which is a residential area of Idlib, rebel-held Idlib, of course, where the Syrian regime would like to hold that piece of territory, that part of Syria, but don't. We're told that Syrian army outposts shelled al-Rais city in Idlib. We're told around about 7 people injured. Rescue workers say, as you mentioned, that school children were among the casualties there. Now, it's too early to put a direct correlation between these 2 attacks, but the suggestion is certainly that one may possibly have been in retaliation for the other.
It's more than 10 years, Anna, since the start of the war in Syria. Just to give us a sense of how much fighting still goes on around the country.
Well, if you look at Idlib in particular, you will see that there is this ongoing tussle between different groups for control of that particular area. Damascus, as I was saying, is relatively peaceful, relatively secure. But if you look down in the south, for example, in the restive area of Daraa, there's been rebel and Syrian regime fighting. There are still huge swathes of Syria, of course, where small remnants of the Islamic State group are still working, still trying to cause trouble around there as well. So even more than a decade after the war in Syria began, things there are still far from peaceful.
Anna, thank you very much. Anna Foster with the latest there, monitoring events from Beirut in neighbouring Lebanon.